And so I will start by welcoming everyone to these second episodes of the Human Difference Talks, which is a series that we conduct with four extraordinary people. Karim Rashid today is with us, and he's one of these four.
I'm extraordinary.
Yes.
I think I'm just ordinary.
Really? Oh, we will discuss about that. I'll save it for later. This is a very interesting thought.
Okay.
So just a super quick introduction to what is the Human Difference Talks and why we wanted to perform this activity. We want to talk about how design can make a difference and how humans can make a difference in such a technological world that we're living in, particular these extraordinarily highly technological times that we are living in 2020. The first meeting was with Ravi Naidu from South Africa. We will have Jerry Lorenzo from Los Angeles, Sara Sozzani Maino from Milan, and technology allows us to be connected today between Rome and New York with Karim today. Human Difference Talks is born out of an idea of Matteo Ragni, which is the creative director of EXTRALIGHT, who gives us the opportunity to be in touch with creativity at such a high level. So, Karim, again, thank you. You have designed over 3,000 objects, spaces, very small things, tiny objects that you can hold in your hand, and things as complex as hotels and stores and restaurants and all kind of spaces. Do you have a preference or in your vision, it's just design, it's just making projects? Do you prefer working on a small scale or a larger scale?
I learned honestly from the new domestic landscape of Italian design when I was very young. This notion that a designer could touch every aspect of human life and that there were no boundaries or borders for creativity in this regard. And what everything does from micro to macro, everything in our let's say our physical environment, but now we also have our virtual environment, creates a better experience or a worse experience.
So is that, did it happen by chance, or is it because maybe you're more future oriented than past related?
I think it's the problem. I'm more future oriented. In fact, I have to say I'm not future oriented, I'm present oriented. I talked about how a designer has to be completely objective, have nothing to do with the past, and live in complete present. And the reason I mention this is because if you design today, if I design, for example, a mobile phone last year, I made one for Opel, the technology that's involved is so prescient. It's the latest. The interface, the latest. The materials we had to use, for things like radiation and interference, and everything is so now that there's no, it's not about history. You know what I mean? It has nothing. It's detached from history. There's a schism here. There's past, but you work in present.
And when you talk about your projects, your design, you always, very often in interviews and talks, you say that design should convey emotions, positive feelings, happiness, humor as well, irony, sometimes surprise, and literally the desire to change your life, which is a pretty strong sentence. In this sense, in this direction, how important are materials? You just mentioned the use of materials. How materials can convey emotions?
Well, I don't think it's just the materials. It's the combination of everything you do. And you use the right appropriate material for the right production method. And use the right production method to get the right, let's say, behavioral designer. A designer or an architect we were never a public subject. We always sat in the background, and yet we shaped this world. This entire world is shaped by us. We designed the Airbus 330. We designed the chairs you sit in. We designed, you could go on and on. We designed the satellite dishes that are floating around the world. So we are here so influential to daily life, and yet we were not ill-considered. I remember back in the late 80s, I'm working in a design firm in Toronto, and I was working with Black & Decker. I made about 12 products for Black & Decker, electric drill, sander. And I sat with Black & Decker in the meeting. I was, an arrogant kid. And I sat there with my partners from the firm who were maybe 30, 40 years my elder. And I said to them, how come these guys have been working for Black & Decker for 20 years and you never give them credit, put their name on the product?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell people that these things are designed by people, by creative people? Black & Decker were shocked. No, why would we do this?
Yeah.
Right? So design was rarely a public subject. If anywhere, it was a bit of a public subject, maybe a little bit in Sweden, a little bit in Finland, Italy for sure, but still, the average person, you walk up to them and say, hey, tell us, name a designer for us. They'll first of all think fashion, and they'll say, oh, I don't know, Calvin Klein, whatever, right? But say, name a designer that designs objects. They don't name anybody, because design was not a public subject. So in a way, it sounds like a bit of a self-righteous agenda, but I wanted to design a public subject. I wanted people to love designers like they like musicians, or they love artists, or they love actors, And I was determined kind of to do this. And in North America, the landscape was like the last thing anybody considers is design. Right? Yeah. And we've seen the impact in this last 25, 30 years of trying to put design on the map.
I really appreciate what you're saying. I'm quoting also one other sentence that you said recently in an interview. Design is something that can be so emotional, so experiential, so romantic, so poetic, and so human, and yet constantly moves us forward. Well, I thought this is a true declaration of love for design. And since you were talking about humans making design, like real people making real objects that can affect, change our lives. And since we were talking about human difference in these talks, I would like to focus on the word human. Where do we identify the humanity of design today?
Over the years, I watched so many people talk about objects almost like they're talking about person. That they talk about something that they own with such love and kind of preciousness that is the effect, the impact design can have on our well-being. We're human. We can humanize the world if all these things are done beautifully. And when I use the word beauty, I'm careful about the word, because I'm not talking about a superficial beauty. Beauty for me is when the inner and the outer are inseparable. So it's like a person, You could look really beautiful on the outside, and then when you meet them and there's something about their personality or their, I don't know, belligerence or arrogance or negativity, they all of a sudden don't look that beautiful anymore. And vice versa. You meet someone you don't think is necessarily very beautiful, and then with time, they start to look more and more and more beautiful to you because their inner is so strong, So beauty is this kind of beautiful, strange, forever in flux kind of relationship between the inner and the outer. And when things we think, oh, that's kind of beautiful, but there isn't that context or there isn't that depth in it. They go by very quickly and they're very flippant, and they actually are a moment, attraction, and then done. But for things to really have a penetrable, humanized quality, they need all that. They need to work beautifully.
A few years ago, you designed the bounce chair for Gufram.
Right.
And it was a piece of foam design made with EXTRALIGHT material.
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit more about this project, how it was born, the process, if you have some stories about that?
Because I never really ever spoke about this chair. Goofram, they have this great history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Products, beautiful things. For me, again, they border much more on art than design. They're not for me design objects. I love playing in that arena too. It was a pleasure. But immediately, I guess because I've done so much pragmatic design, it's hard for me to be a little bit overly poetic and not be practical.
Yeah.
And I also realized something about me is, and I think honestly, and I'm not going to brag by this, but I just want to say what makes a good designer. You need intellectual vision and rigor. You need to see the world how it is, really address it, right? And be creative. The other side of you have to be very pragmatic. You have to be a practical person. If you design a chest of drawers, you've got to design them so people can use them nicely. You have to think this. You can't just, and I'm a Virgo. I'm so pragmatic and so practical that it almost bothers me because I'd rather be a little bit more, let's say, on the creative end, like a Scorpio or, but that practicality has helped me so much in my career and my life in doing things that are touching people's lives. Like people say, oh, how can you put so much product on the market? How do you do so much? Well, if you listen to the company you work for and you really collaborate with them, then you're going to do something inevitably that will have some success. It's not about you. It's about them too. And they need to feed families and they need to make a living and they need to survive and they need to sell things. It's this kind of like dance, like a tango, So when I was with Goofram, my immediate tango was actually a little bit like, hey, I want to make something a little more pragmatic for you. And immediately went in that direction. And I think they wanted from me much more, maybe like the cactus they make, if the people listening know their products, something a bit more of a statement, an artistic statement. And I couldn't really do it, And then when they proposed to me, I proposed in about 15, 20 concepts, because when I work, I do a little too much. A lot of complaints I get is, it's overwhelming here, we don't even know where to go. And I made a chair that was made of slats. And I was always interested in this notion of going back to Eileen Gray and going back to Mark Stan, Marcel Brauer, and even Le Corbusier, when they had the little springs and they made steel tube bending with it. And I thought, I like to replace this. Is there some sort of nice, soft material that doesn't need the complexity of production? Something very simple that would give me a kind of bounce, a springy feeling. So, they saw the renderings, and then they came back to me and said, we really love this chair. And then they mentioned EXTRALIGHT and said, oh, they saw something new EXTRALIGHT had done in a show, an exhibition. And they started the talk back and forth.
Yeah.
It included what was really nice about the material was all its properties, has great properties. And we realized, and if we could injection mold just one unit, one piece, but just repeat it on a chaise longue, on a stool, on a chair, we just flipped them on. It was also a very easy assembly and easy production. Yeah. So that's how it started.
Okay. Thanks. I think we're running out of time, so I would like to thank you again for
let me thank EXTRALIGHT first of all for giving me the opportunity to talk to everybody, and then Paolo, let me thank you very much for bringing me on board. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure. Absolutely.
I hope I see you physically one day, so I can touch your colorful sweater.
Yeah.
Okay. Give you a big abbraccio. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. One day we will hug again. Okay. We will do that. Okay, Karim, thank you so much. Hope to see you soon. Thank you, EXTRALIGHT, and thank you to all the participants. And see you for the third episode.
Listening in. Okay. Yes. I send my global love to all of you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye. Ciao. Ciao. Thank you.